Alright, so the next character for us to discuss is King. Now, once again, I will repeat the rules of our breakdown. We will not be touching over stats, as they are easily changeable with weapons and armor, as well as potential. So, they are simply just not a concern for us, guys. Additionally, I will not be discussing the engraved equipment. They have passives, and I want to go over them. But I simply do not have enough of them. I don't have all the equipment for the character because I was out during the beta and I was only able to play for 2 days, and as you can see, I'm not particularly well adjusted to discuss the passives of those equipment, so for which I apologize once again. Now, let's go over the skill information. Adventure skill of King is Flight. It does not change depending on the weapon that you equip. Now, the Flight ability is really simple. You click the button R and you will simply select where you want to fly. And as you can see, King will fly there really fast. But obviously be careful because you will fall and take damage if you do not aim carefully. It is a great ability, I really like it, and I rate it highly because it will help you in your exploration. Anyways, let's continue with character skills. Now, the passive Fairy King. We are talking about, my apologies, we are talking for the staff, for the book, and for the wand. Now, for the staff, the passive Fairy King has 20% chance to gain Bloom for 10 seconds when landing an attack. Gain Bloom for 10 seconds when landing the normal skill on an enemy with burst activated. Maximum of 20. Now, once again, let me remind you, burst is an effect that the enemy will take once you fill their burst gauge that is located to the right side of the HP. Bloom increases attack by 1% per every one effect. When Bloom is at max stack of 20, all Bloom effects are removed and the hero gains full Bloom for 10 seconds. Full Bloom increases attack by 35% and defense shatter by 10%. Now, the normal attack inflicts damage equal to 190% of attack. First hit doing 80%, second doing 90%, third doing 31%, and fourth doing 51%. Special attack has a 7-second cooldown, gains 1 Bloom effect for 10 seconds, max of 20 seconds, then inflicts damage equal to 136% of attack. Bloom increases attack by 1% per every one effect, and we have gone over them. Once the full stack is reached, the hero gains full Bloom for 10 seconds, and full Bloom increases attack by 35% and defense shatter by 10%. So, this is a very effective ability to deal damage to the enemy with. Now, the Holy Sworn, the normal skill, has a 15-second cooldown and it inflicts damage equal to 190% of attack. Then gain Bloom for Bloom effect equal to the number of enemies hit by the first strike for 10 seconds, max obviously being 20. Increases damage dealt by 2% per every one Bloom effect on the hero. If the hero has full Bloom effect, damage dealt increases by 50%, which is great. If you have 19 stacks, you will be at 38%, but if you get 20 stack and activate full Bloom, you will have 50% as opposed to 40, with obviously additional attack and defense shatter buffs. Now, tag skill. B chase inflicts damage equal to 104% of attack. Ultimate move, Shining Blaze, has a 10-second cooldown and consumes 3 magic points. Inflicts damage equal of 306% of attack, then increases damage dealt by 2% per 1 bloom effect on the hero. If the hero has a full bloom effect, damage dealt increases by 60% and the crit chance increases by 50%, which is great because you can combine this with the simple effect of the full bloom that increases attack further by 35%. Now let's go over those abilities. First is the basic combo that looks like this. Then we have the right click on the mouse, which gave us bloom, as you guys saw, and the skill on the button E. And obviously the ultimate move. When we equip the book, the passive Fairy King decreases all allied heroes' damage taken by 20% and decreases the hero's healing efficiency by 15% when HP is 30% or lower. This is quite good and an effective way to prolong your very difficult fights if you are on a team, letting you be more defensively sound and have greater survivability. Normal attack inflicts damage equal to 99% of attack, 20% chance to inflict Mark of the Forest for 10 seconds, maximum of 10 times. First hit dealing 50%, second doing 16%, third doing 26%, and fourth doing 42%. Mark of the Forest increases damage taken by 1% and earth damage taken by 3%. Now, special attack has a 12-second cooldown. It decreases damage taken by 20% and increases healing efficiency by 3% every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds while the stance is maintained, maximum of 15%. When hit, the stance is removed, then the hero inflicts damage equal to 99% of attack and restores HP by 30% of attack. Increases damage dealt by 5% per 1 Mark of the Forest on the enemy. Normal skill, Protector of the Forest. It has a 16-second cooldown, it inflicts damage equal to 166% of attack, then inflicts Mark of the Forest for 10 seconds, maximum of 10 times. Once again, Mark of the Forest increases damage taken by 1% and earth damage taken by 3%. Attack skill Upper Arc inflicts damage equal to 82% of attack. Ultimate move Forest Protector or Forest Protection, my apologies. It has a 10-second cooldown and consumes 4 magic. Grants all allied heroes Forest Protection for 20 seconds, while Forest Protection grants a barrier equal of 50% of max HP and restores HP by 35% of attack every 2 seconds. Now, we needed to change locations because obviously there are no enemies where we were previously. Let's gather all these retards over here and let's start with this skill. As you saw, King returned the attack after receiving the very first attack. Now let's see what he does. Yep, very well. Now let's do little combos on them to increase our ultimate gauge or the so-called magic. Now, my apologies, my king is quite weak because I only had 2 days to play around in the beta. Now, when clicking Q, the ultimate move is activated and we have a barrier around us. We also healed a little bit and obviously the allies are also protected, as you can see with Killa for example. Very well. When equipping the wand, oopsies, my apologies. When we equip the wand, the character abilities change once again. The passive Fairy King increases all allied Earth heroes' attack and defense by 10% per every 1 magic point. Magic point is once again what we use to cast ultimates. Normal attack inflicts damage equal to 77% of the attack, which is quite low. However, this is granted. We have more attack and defense per magic point. First attack does 18%, second does 22%, and third does 37%. Special attack has a 15-second cooldown and restores the magic gauge by 100 for every 1 second and increases all allied heroes' defense by 6% for 20 seconds when the stance is maintained, maximum of 5 times. You will have to hold this down for it to cast. Normal skill, Fairy Power, has 20-second cooldown and grants all allied heroes Forest Fairy for 20 seconds. Now, Forest Fairy increases earth damage by 20%. Attack skill Earth Impact inflicts damage equal to 91% of attack and restores magic gauge by 500, which is quite a bit. And lastly, the Sharp Slash ultimate move has a 10-second cooldown and consumes 2 magic, so you can be careful with the magic points, so you can be as defensive and as offensive for as long as possible. It inflicts damage equal to 245% of attack. Each hit restores the magic gauge by 50. Now, once again, let's fly over here and let's see how the magic gauge restoration will work. Let's start with the right click on the mouse. We have increased our defense, and as you can see, nothing particularly crazy has happened. We simply just had a shield around us. Not even a shield, we simply just had a defensive increase. When we click E, we gave Fairy Forest to all allies, and that's basically it. Now, as for the Q button. Yeah, the ability is nothing impressive for me personally. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding how his abilities work. Now this is his normal combos. As you can see, the range is not particularly crazy either. Let's see, maybe the range is not that bad, but nothing crazy. Considering his abilities are nothing impressive either, I think this is the worst weapon you can equip on King, because it simply does not do a whole lot. Now, unlike Gila and Jericho, King actually has a very diverse elemental typings for his weapons. His first weapon is Holy, his second weapon is Physical, and his third weapon is Earth type. Personally, I think that the book is my preferred gameplay style for the King, because I really like the healing that he provides to the team. Now let's go over costumes. He has 4 of them. This is the inexperienced Fairy King costume, the iconic costume that he always rocks, the Grizzly Sin of Sloth costume, Forest's Footsteps, and the Shadow of the Deep Forest. Now, I do think that there is one costume missing that was showcased during the demo that recently took place, and that was the final boss costume from Grand Cross. But yeah, either way it's not here, or maybe I'm just mistaken. which I will apologize for if that's the case. Now, either way, let's go over the potential. Potential tier number 1 increases attack by 10%, defense by 8%, and max HP by 3%, regardless of what weapon you equip. Tier number 2 increases damage dealt with normal attacks by 40%, that's being regular to all weapons. Potential tier number 3 increases attack by 15%, defense by 12%, and max HP by 5%, that being regular among all weapons. Tier number 4 increases damage dealt with the special skill or special attack by 50%, increase the special attack's HP recovery by 50% for the book, and increase the special attack's magic gauge recovery by 150 for the staff or the wand. I don't really remember which one of those are, for which I apologize. For potential tier 5, slightly increase the range of the special attack, increases the passive's bloom chance by 100% when landing the special attack. With book, becomes immune to reactions and decrease damage taken by 30% when attacking using special attack while the stance is maintained. And tier 5 changes for this wand, right? Now let me check real quick. Yeah, the wand and the staff is the first. Okay. So for the wand, changes the Forest Fairy effect to Forest Fairy King, and Forest Fairy King increases earth damage by 40% and decreases magic charging efficiency by 30%. This will definitely strengthen the magic wand. For potential tier number 6, for the staff, it increases damage dealt with the normal skill by 60%. For the book, it does exactly the same, and for the wand, it increases magic charging efficiency by 5% for every 1 magic point, which means you will have easier time the more magic points you have. For example, if you have fully acquired 6 of them, the 7th one will charge 30% faster. Potential tier number 7 additionally gains 2 bloom effects when using normal skill and increases the number of bloom effects applied when attacking an enemy with a burst activated by 1. For the book, it increases the normal skill's number of Mark of the Forest effects applied by 2 and restores the magic gauge by 75 per every 1 Mark of the Forest effects on the enemy. And here it increases the enemy's burst gauge by 250 and additionally restores the magic by 300 when landing the final strike of the ultimate move, which is great. Potential tier number 8 increases attack by 25%, defense by 20%, and max HP by 8% shared across all weapons. Potential tier number 9 increases damage dealt with the ultimate move by 50%. Here it increases the HP recovery of Forest Protection by 50%, and here it once again increases the ultimate move damage by 50%. Potential tier number 10 inflicts damage equal to 15% of attack to enemies in range every 0.5 seconds for 5 seconds when using the ultimate move. So it is the damage over time effect. Very nice. Here it increases the duration of Forest Protection by 10 seconds, which is quite crazy, and it increases the defense by 20% while it is active. This is also really good. And lastly, the potential tier number 10 increases all allied heroes' earth attack by 30% for 30 seconds, which is crazy, when the special attack stance is maintained for 5 seconds. Gun to my head, if I really had to choose which king ability to use, I would go with the book. I really like its effects, and among the 2 of the 3 weapons that he has, the shield is better with the book, because it literally counters an attack. Even Meliodas does not do that, at least for now. I think future versions of Meliodas might actually have a full counter ability, but for now this is the best full counter you got in the game. Well, if you exclude the non-7 Deadly Sins characters. And also the ultimate. Now the problem with the ultimate is how many charges it needs with the book. 4 is a little bit crazy, but they charge quite fast. And when you use the book, the forest protection is really nice, the HP recovery is good, and the defense to allies is also great. So my personal choice of the weapon would be book, but at the same time I'm not particularly a big fan of any of his playstyles because I'm more of a close range combatant. I prefer fights with characters like Jericho or Gila with Rapier when you're able to fight close and personal. So for that reason I do think that King is one of the better characters in the game. However, he simply is not someone that I would prefer to use because this is simply not my style. Anyways, my opinion is quite useless when it comes to the characters in the game. I think obviously the developers gave us the ability to choose between 3 weapons because everyone has their own playstyles and everyone can decide for themselves, which is great. With that said, let me know which one of the King's weapons you prefer using on him the most. Thank you guys very much for watching and have a wonderful day.